Hello Taurus, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for March 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. There's some incredibly powerful developments this month. I'm going to give you a few key strands to look out for, but please stay with me. I will dive deep to give you in forensic detail the influences particularly relevant to your sign. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining me once more. If you're new to my channel, it's great to have you with me. Please comment. I interact with all comments. This is very much a community. But also please like and subscribe. Now I have to say, do mark the 16th in your diary, because from that point Venus arrives back in your sign. It rules the sign of Taurus, so that can be very positive. There's a bit of an irony, to be honest, Taurus, because she forges a beautiful link with Saturn, newly arrived on the 7th in your sector of the future, friendships and associations, but she's also challenged by Pluto, which is set to arrive in the sign of Aquarius, your sector of success, on the 23rd. So bit of a sort of double-edged sword there, to be honest. But Venus is blessed by the energy of Jupiter at the start of this month. I need to tell you about that. That could be very powerful. The two planets of fortune coming together, but in a very tender part of your situation. But your chart to begin with this month does put a lot of emphasis on that future planning that Saturn speaks to. And this is because the Sun's there, but on the 2nd, Mercury also arrives in Pisces, and of course Neptune has been in this sign since 2012. So your network, the people you connect to, if you like, your tribe, as they say these days, is going to be very important through the first 2 weeks of March. But then of course we have the spring equinox, and energy manifests itself with Mercury's arrival just before that on the 19th in a very private part of your situation, which is going to give you a lot of food for thought. Also, Mars is being challenged by Neptune week 2 and week 3. Even though Mars comes out of its shadow on the 15th, I need to really explain why that could be a bit tricky for you. But we do have the start of the new astrological year on the 20th, a new moon on the 21st, so lots to discuss. And I feel, just to say, Mars's arrival in the sign of Cancer is something you're really going to appreciate on the 25th, but please stay with me for more. But if you would like to understand how your personal astrology is impacting on every day of your life, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data, of time, date and place of birth, I can produce your life roadmap report, which will help you to get a much more intimate understanding of those patterns, sometimes the challenging ones that keep coming up, but also helping you to seize opportunities more firmly. In my special package of 30% off, you can also get your 12-month forecast, again totally unique and personal to you. Please see the link beneath this video for more on that. So Taurus, as you come into March, the Sun is joined by Mercury on the 2nd and Neptune in that part of your horoscope that's very much to do with how you relate to the collective. And if you've got a strongly humanitarian side to your nature, it's really going to blossom. If you're someone who's got some people in your circle that you're not quite so sure of, the arrival of Saturn on the 7th is going to be the start of an interesting couple of years for you, or 2.5 years, in the first phase of 2.25. With Saturn arriving in this sign, I think you're going to be taking your friendships a lot more seriously. But of course the 7th also sees a full moon. But just before I tell you about that, Mercury does, before it arrives in Pisces, get into a tight clinch with Saturn across the first couple of days of this month. If there's something that's not quite working around your work, or you're finding the responsibility a bit overbearing, or you've got a boss or a line manager that you find are too demanding, you could feel the pinch a little bit. But also because Venus and Jupiter, your ruler Venus, are in that magical link across the first week of this month, it could make you quite sentimental. It may even see you thinking back to past friends or associates or even a partner. It is possible in some situations that an old flame could get in touch. But I don't want to create the illusion that this will lead to an absolutely beautiful fairy tale of reunion and resparking the romance, because you've both probably changed quite a bit. And what Saturn's going to be demanding of you from the 7th over the next 2.25 years initially is a much greater realism. And the more you know what you stand for, the more you can align your relationships with the people who understand where you're coming from. If we try to be ourselves with every single person in a very open and unguarded way, it's not necessarily going to work particularly well. However, Venus does forge a delightful link with Mars in week 2, and past efforts or sacrifices or kindnesses could see you celebrated or achieve some kind of financial target which is really pleasing to you. But that brings us to the full moon. And the ironic thing about this full moon is it actually, in Virgo, works really well with Uranus, which of course has been in your sign for those 5 months in 2018, from the middle of May to the middle of October, then from March the 7th, I think, in 2019, full time. And of course it's been going through its retrogrades as well, and it's generally been a potentially enlivening, stimulating, provocative influence to you. It may have pushed you to push you out of your comfort zone, push yourself out of your comfort zone, or it may have been very disruptive. And it just depends where your sun is or other personal planets in relation to Uranus, just what an impact it's had. But it's certainly been a restless time for sure. But it has forged a number of challenging angles to lunations. But this one, the full moon in Virgo, for you, is very much about manifesting your talent as an individual. So Uranus's lovely angle to the moon is encouraging you to try different things, be more imaginative. But there is a quincunx with Jupiter, and that's a much more testing influence. So Jupiter's in your 12th house. If you're someone who's very, very grounded, which obviously a lot of Tauran people are, you're a fixed sign, you're governed by Earth, you have an appreciation of working through processes to see tangible rewards. But if you're someone who does, get into situations and get very sort of heightened excitement, Jupiter in this quincunx is asking you to stay very much in touch with the more psychological dimension, or your fears and anxieties, to be honest, so you don't expose yourself to a situation which actually can leave you feeling quite vulnerable. Because this is a full moon that is asking you to think about how you use your time, who are the important players in your world, how you can be yourself with the people who are in your world, whether it's a partner or friends. And Uranus is saying to you in a way that you're feeling a need to be really authentic. But like I just said to you a while ago, if we all go around being utterly authentic immediately with anyone we encounter, we don't then give ourselves the chance to actually get to know people in a bit by bit way, and then work out who we can be more relaxed with. So I don't feel that this is a full moon that's good for you to be too gung-ho, and it could tempt you to try to be so. Now, because Saturn moves into Pisces on the same day, this is a full moon that will get an awful lot of coverage. And a lot of the information will be about Saturn moving on the same day. But if we go back to the new moon in Pisces, which is very much to do with your future, on the 19th and 20th of February, depending on where you live, Saturn was actually very influential on that. So it's already been slowing you down a little bit and asking you to think much more seriously about what you want for your long-term plan, but also what you stand for. So I feel there could be a bit of a shake-up around your relationships, essentially, from that full moon for the following 2 weeks, but then at a deeper level for the following couple of years. So just bear that in mind. Now on the 15th, Mars comes out of shadow. If you have found that your financial situation has felt very sluggish, perhaps even since the first week of September when the pre-shadow began, the retrograde on the 30th of October, it ended on the 12th of January, I feel there's going to be a potential for you to sharpen things up, but you've got to be realistic because Neptune squares Mars again, or Mars squares Neptune, much in the way it did through October, November, the first week of December. So balancing your natural realism with the part of your nature that's more idealistic will be important at that phase in the month. Now, on the 16th, Venus does make that move into your sign. And if you have gone through a period of uncertainty around certain relationships, or there's even been a separation in a romantic tie, this helps to bring you into the present. It forges a great link with Saturn, as I mentioned before, a more challenging one to Pluto. But Mercury moving on the 19th moves into your 12th house. So you could find that as much as you may want to move on, a legacy issue from your past is still hanging around. And that's going to be emphasised by the spring equinox on the 20th and the new moon of the 21st. On the 23rd, of course, we have Pluto pitching up for that brief sojourn in Aquarius for 11 weeks. But the new moon does square with Mars. Now Mars is going to be moving on the 25th into a very good zone for you. Mars in the 3rd house can give us more confidence and authority about sharing our ideas, but in the sign of Cancer, as it will be for you, it's important that you're not responding to situations in a subconscious way, that your communication is clear, practical, and as much as possible is much more detached, really, which can be difficult with Mars in Cancer. It's not Mars's best place, but for you, the 3rd house. But because Mars does forge a quincunx with Pluto just moving into your sector of success, just be conscious of the message that you're trying to propel out there. The other thing about all this 11th house energy that's building up, but primarily through Saturn, is that other people will be judging you with their standards. It's not going to be a one-way street, so bear that in mind. But as the month comes to a close, some kind of confidential conversation you have with Jupiter joined by Mercury could give you some lift. Maybe someone's going to tell you something that's very supportive, or you're going to find out some information of a more spiritual kind, which gives you some peace of mind. You may just want to withdraw a little bit as this month comes to a close. So in a strange way, part of this month is asking you to think very much about your long-term future, your friendship, your network, and another part of this month is asking you to slow things down and to turn inward a little bit. Perhaps the turning inward will help you to get a clearer picture of what you want from those long-term aspirations. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Taurus. Please like, comment. I interact with every comment. This is very much a community. Or subscribe. Thank you.